I'm interested, number one, thankfully, you were not in any of the places that were attacked on Friday night. I know your friends and family would be happy to see you beside me today.
Exactly.
But what was your experience?
Well, I was actually out for drink, so I could have been in this neighborhood, which is, a place where we come, but I wasn't, thankfully. And when I got home, I was on the phone with someone who just said, I just saw an alert on the internet, just turn on your television. And that's how the evening started.
And you just couldn't draw yourself away.
I was there until 3 o'clock in the morning on the internet watching it unfold.
What were you thinking as you were watching it?
Well, total shock and awe, I guess, because it started as, an isolated event, the Stade de France, and then, the toll kept growing, 20 people, 40, 60, and then coming here in the Bataclan, and we didn't know what was going on. Obviously thinking of people who may be around here, trying to figure out if they were hurt or even...
Do you know anyone personally who was?
No, but I'm starting to hear of people I know, so it's like a second step.
Connections.
Yes.
It's interesting, you hear the police siren there. That may take on a different meaning, that sound for people here. It's Monday. It's a bit back to normal. The work day, the work week has resumed, but when you hear that siren, do you feel that it's back to normal, your city, or?
Well, the transport already this morning were very light. I think about a third less travelers than we usually see on a Monday morning. People were keeping their distance from each other, which is not very Parisian. Usually it's a huge crush. People were very silent, respectful. Alarms like this actually trigger something, and it brought me back to January, where the same feeling was very present.
After the attacks of the Charlie Hebdo
exactly,
and the
which is
kosher supermarket.
A block from here, mostly. So we have this sense, of course, a heightened sense of security. Lots of people with, army and policemen with full gears and arms. So we've seen them again in January. They sort of were more discreet in the last few months, and now it's back to that level. So yes, there's a sense that something has changed.
You have an 11-year-old daughter. I do. She was able to go back to school today. Yes. They did reopen schools. For her, the going back to school, how was that today?
Well, as a high school first-year kid, her and her friends started texting on Saturday. So it was out of our hands. It was between them to try to figure out how to understand the whole event. And together they've agreed that this morning they would all dress in black.
Really?
Yeah.
And they decided this themselves?
Absolutely. Some of them met yesterday and they all sort of had a plan. And this morning she asked me to write with a felt pen, Pray for Paris, Together for Paris, so that it would be in our hands. And so I know the teachers will also prepare them for the minute of silence that happens.
There was a minute of silence at school, as there was here.
Yes.
So how does an 11-year-old process this? She's been through January and now this.
For her, it's part of the same cycle. Anger more than fear. Sort of these horrible people do horrible things and we will fight them. And a lot of resolve. I found it very comforting. And a certain level of maturity, which, at 11, they're confronted with this.
That's a sad fact, though, isn't it? At 11, this should be a reality in the city that you love and you've chosen to live in. And we had a stark warning from the Prime Minister this morning that there are other attacks, they believe, being planned for France or more broadly elsewhere in Europe. To know that, how does that make you feel?
The fear, but anger as well, that we have to live with this sort of knife above our head and this threat. I think that the most shocking aspect is that it happened in this neighborhood, which is not a big tourist place. It's not the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre. It's a normal neighborhood, very residential. Lots of people go out there on Saturday to just have a normal evening out. It was
I think
mild.
that's part of there was no definite symbolism, freedom of speech like Charlie Hebdo. It was people going about
just
their daily lives.
And totally gratuitous. Yes. And there's a sense that we're here today. Something may happen, but at the same time, I'm not quite terrified. I'm very comfortable being here today.
You are. Canada has known terror as well within the last year or so. No place is immune, sadly. But are you happy to continue to live here with this threat?
Yes. Well, for the moment, I haven't envisioned any alternative. No. And we're here. We live in a sort of a little bit outside of Paris in a residential neighborhood. So not that we feel more secure, more safe, but somehow a bit more protected from the crowds and
What about that Canadian passport?
And that, it came into my mind this weekend that I have to make sure my daughter's Canadian passport doesn't lapse.
Just in case.
Yeah, it's there, and
Thank you for coming to tell your
Well,
story.
thank
We
you,
want to
Heather.
make sure that we tell the experience of Canadians to Canadians who are at home watching and absorbing this as well and following so closely. We wish you a good return to your work today.
Thank you very
and
much,
also,
Heather.
hopefully, safe environment for the future. Stephanie Lincourt, as she joins me here in the Place de l'Oreille.